Another rare option is what we call spats. Instead of having mud flaps, Subaru decided to have. Hi, welcome back to CarsAddiction.com. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ryan and we share car-related content every Wednesday and Sunday. Wednesday is a short snippet of any car encounter I come across, and Sunday is a full-fledged video of a project I'm doing, a car build, or anything else car-related. Now this week we are focusing on the first generation Subaru Impreza. Now this is my actually daily driver, so it's not going to be in the best condition ever. It's not a garage queen, far from it. So just excuse me if you see any blemishes here and there. But this video, main purpose of this video is to explain the visual differences between the pre-facelift, facelift, and what rare option was available on this platform. Now the Subaru Impreza has been in production between 1993 and 2000 officially, but there are some cars that have been built in 1992 and in 2001. Now this video is going to be purely focused on the Japanese domestic market models and the WRX and the WRX STi models. Other models, there are many other markets and other engine variations and trims. I would not go into them because there's lots to talk about. This video is going to be segmented into three parts. We're going to have the exterior, then we're going to talk about the interior and the engine. So let's start with the front of the car. Now there are a lot of changes between pre-facelift and facelift, and let's go through them. My car is a 1997, and it happened to be the year that Subaru decided to have a combination of the two. Now the facelift version started from 98 onwards, and the pre-facelift ended in 1996. So what happened in 1997? This is a 1997 car, and what happened is that they gave some parts from the facelift and kept some parts from the pre-facelift. So let's start with the hood. With the hood, we can note it's a facelift because the vents on the side here are in a vertical format, whereas pre-facelift ones will be horizontal. Another way to indicate that this is a facelift bonnet is to note that there is like an edge right over here. You could see it on the other side. It's more profound than pre-facelift. Pre-facelift bonnet is more softer on the edges. You also note that between pre-facelift and facelift that the hood scoop is shallower. One thing to note is the 22B has the facelift bonnet, but then has different side vents over here which are in the horizontal format. And then there's the STO1, which will have a different hood scoop but the same facelift bonnet. So if you have a facelift bonnet, you actually have options between what kind of vents you'd like to go for and if you want to keep it standard. Now, pre-facelift and facelift bonnets come in two variations. There's the steel and the aluminum being very light. And it depends on what trim you go for. Usually Japanese models are all aluminum, whereas the rest of the markets might have steel bonnets. Other differences between pre-facelift and facelift are the headlights. As you can see, the facelift have a more sort of aggressive look right over here. This angle is more profound than the pre-facelift. The pre-facelift one is more software, and because of the hood and the headlight, then you have a different grille completely. The facelift one has a honeycomb design in the back here, and the pre-facelift one will have like a solid bar in between over here. Now facelift, you have two types of grills. You have this one here, and then in the later years, 99 onwards, you have one that bulges outwards on top of the bumper. Badging usually comes in this green color, not sure if you can see it, but then there are the STi versions which come into a pink. The bumper you see over here in front of you is a pre-facelift one. The facelift one is different. You note that it is a pre-facelift one because it has 3 vents over here on the side, whereas the facelift one only has 2. Now, besides those 2 common OEM bumpers, there's an additional other 2 OEM bumpers, the sport bumper, which was an additional cost if you're buying an STi, and it came standard on the 22B. Then there was the outrageous ST01 bumper. Now, talking about extras, we have these fog light covers. Those are an extra. Behind them are fog lights. Those are an extra too. The fog light covers can actually be bolted as they are now, or they can be clipped in without the bolts. It's actually goes two ways. Another option which we see is the front splitter. This comes in 3 parts and is actually factory to the Impreza. Now, if you want to update your pre-facelift to a facelift, all you need is the hood, lights and grille. The fenders and the corner lights are the same for all years, and the bumper has nothing to do with the upper part, so you could just keep your old one or upgrade it as well. You might, if you're going to be upgrading, you might want to even change the bar in the back because it might have different mounting points. Now let's go to the side. Now the side there, I'd like to note that there has been actually 3 body styles for this generation of Impreza. There is the sedan, there is the STi, and there's the coupe. This is the only Impreza generation that actually had 3 different styles for the WRX and WRX STi models. Later on, they actually only stick with the sedan. So changes, extras which we have to this model are the side skirts. They come in 2 pieces each side. To complement the side skirts, there are also the rear skirt, which is in 2 parts. These by default come in matte black. Unpainted, you could have paid extra and have them painted, which is very common. You rarely actually see ones that are still in black. Another rare option are these spats, which are actually mud flaps to prevent mud going over on the door. They are in 4 pieces. You have 2 in each side. One of them connects to the back. Another rare option will be these wheels. These are Raise Engineering by STi. In fact, they have STi embossed in the back, and they come with these STi caps as well. These are 16-inch by 7 width and 53 offset. It's not uncommon that Impreza usually outsources the wheels to other companies. They also do it with BBS and I believe NK as well. Now, the early pre-facelift editions came with 15-inch wheels because they had 2-pot calipers in the front, where then in 97 or 98 with the STi models, they have upgraded them to 4-pot calipers. So they actually introduced the 16-inch wheel because the 15-inch wheel won't bolt on to the front. Another thing to note that we have the side indicator should be orange for all models. It's just I upgraded them into white. And the door handles, that's like an option that they're color coded. Usually they're black as well. While we're here, I'd like to mention the mirrors. They're all the same for all models. There are manual ones and electric ones, and there are electric ones that are foldable, and these are them. But by time, as you can see, they come very loose. That's by people hitting them by mistake or, whatnot. Another defect is that by time, the paint over here on this pillar fades from black into that chrome. And another defect would be rust. These tend to rust on the arches for some reason. Now, all 90s Japanese cars have bed metal, but the common rust spots for Imprezas are this part over here, around the rear windscreen, and underneath the boot over here, this area around here. Another issue is that the rear tail lights have a gasket in between when they're fitted, and those shrink by time. So when water comes down in heavy rainfall, they actually don't go outwards but into where the spare wheel is and accumulates over there and rust the part underneath the spare wheel. So about rust is you're talking about those main areas. There could be other areas, but those are the places that go first. I'd like to also mention that the RA models have a roof vent. That's actually standard for road cars, believe it or not. And that's why some people go for the RA models, just because of that roof vent. But RA models usually then are removed from luxury items such as air condition, ABS. There's a lot of weight savings in the interior as well. so it's not for everyone. Another thing I'd like to mention while we're on the side is the antenna is usually electric operated on all models, but if you're going for the lightweight version, the antenna would be on the driver's side. There'll be like a manual antenna on that pillar. We go to the rear. This is a facelift rear bumper. In the pre-facelift, the difference will be it has a different design over here. There'll be like two lines across like that. If you're switching bumpers, you might even want to switch the support at the back. They might be different. Between pre-facelift and facelift, we also see that the rear tail lights are orange on the pre-facelift, whereas this is facelift with the clear ones. These are very sought after, they demand a premium. Yeah, if you have a look on eBay, they actually go for lots of money. The trunk is actually the same for all models, and the spoiler is actually different between models and years. WRX always had the low level spoiler, but the STi version 1 had this narrow spoiler and a bit higher, which is quite unique for that year. And then they switched to this version. What you see here is the mid-level, what they call it. That's an STi spoiler until 97. Then in 98 they went with this like two-level spoiler, which can be also found on the 22B, with the only difference that the 22B had like a flap, adjustable flap. There could be other style spoilers which I'm forgetting, but those are the main ones. There's also the ST01, which had a crazy front and rear bumper, side skirts and spoiler. So let's get into the interior. Now this is the pre-facelift dashboard. The facelift had a different style. To complement the pre-facelift dashboard, we also had different side cards to sort of match the gap right over here. The gauge you see here is not standard, that's different. Cars that have actually don't have airbag will have a opening over here, because the airbag ECU is located right over here. Most of the cars are manual, except for the wagons. Some wagons came in with automatic. What we have as options on these cars. So usually these are mostly blank to accommodate extras, but I made sure I included them all. So you had the intercooler water spray, you had one to have it automated, you had of the fog lights. Go to the other side. You have the fog lights for the rear. No, it could be actually, this could be the front, the other one could be the rear. And we have the power folding mirrors switch. So those are all these, what you could have actually option on your Subaru Impreza. There's also this area over here which you might have a blank, which is to control the central drift, to put more power to the back or distribute it evenly on all four wheels. Now this switch changes. In pre-facelift cars it's black, and the facelift cars it is white. Steering wheel. So some cars were not equipped with airbags. The non-airbag cars came with an RD steering wheel with the cover over here. My cover has been removed. They are Nardi steering wheels, but with the logo of Subaru down here. The STi models will have red stitching over here, and the airbag ones will have a Momo 4-spoke steering wheel. It's quite bulky, not a lot of people like it. In fact, they upgraded back to the Nardi ones, but that is the general, steering wheel for those cars. And one last thing about the interior is the seats. Now these are the facelift WRX seats. You can note them because they have this gray-white design to them, front and rear, and even door cards. The facelift STi would actually have red sides and STi lettering here. Pre-facelift WRX ones usually have this tiger stripe design into them. There has been some special editions with different color seats, like in yellow or blue. And there also has been the introduction of Recaro seats as well, with the nets and the confetti style seats. There are different kinds of seats for this car. It's hard to mention all of them in this video, but I'll throw a few on the screen. Open the engine is quite easy. The release is over here. And another release right over the badge. And this is the pre-facelift engine. The pre-facelift engine would have a slanted intercooler. They usually on paper they provide the same bhp, but it said that the facelift one had much more power. You know that it is an STi motor visually is because it has a red intake manifold, whereas WRX wasn't red. Apart from that, they're all the same. All your information would be on that VIN plate, and that's actually an optional extra, that carbon fiber strut bar. Also, between WRX and STi models, this is usually black in WRX model and the silver is STi. In fact, we have STi badging here. None of them came with the lettering STi over here. That is something done aftermarket or with the newer Imprezas. Your radiators here, you have your condenser over here. This is a boxer engine which has a lovely sound to it. It's low center of gravity, it handles correct, but to work on it might be a bit complicated because even for a simple spark plug change, your spark plugs are buried underneath there. Whereas like example like a Honda, they'll be very easy accessible. So working on this engine might take a different skill set altogether. Now the water spray intercooler, although I have the buttons, I do not have it connected yet. Usually have a different under tray over here and the piping going into your sort of pump to spray the nozzles. Now the reason I did not connect it is because cars equipped with water spray system usually don't have ABS, because the bottle usually sits right over here, and I haven't introduced it because I have the ABS unit there, so I prefer to keep the ABS rather than having the spray working. Another thing I like to know before we close the engine bay is that the grill usually just clips in, it doesn't bolt in, but I usually like to hold it in place with zip ties or something of that sort, or some cable, because I'm not so fond of having that holding the grill. That's about it about the Impreza. I could have gone longer. There are different versions, version 1 to 6. There are different flavors. There's the RA, the Type R, the V Limited, and so forth. It can go on forever. They actually did a whole lot of confusion during the years, and by time it only gets confusing, and that could be for a video on its own. Now I hope this video is useful. I want to hear below in the comments below what you like about the Impreza, the first generation Impreza. What is your build like and what is your future plans? Please comment below. Thanks for watching. Take care.